Could this be a push? Could this be a final push for a sign of things to come? Lynne Roberts, head coach, LA Sparks, planting seeds in the ground for Caitlin Clark to blossom and eventually put on a LA Sparks uniform. The talks were once hot.
The Los Angeles Sparks, a team that for the last few years most people had written off as irrelevant, are making a very serious, very aggressive push to pull Caitlin Clark away from the Indiana Fever. And the person driving that push is Lynne Roberts, the brand new Sparks head coach, who just spent 9 years building a powerhouse at Utah before deciding her next challenge was a professional game.
Clark traded to LA. A nightmare situation for Indiana. Is this actually happening? Looking at the YouTube WNBA influencers, they are convinced that Caitlin Clark will be traded to the LA Sparks. The thought process here is that Adam Silva doesn't like what's going on in Indiana. Caitlin Clark is too big of a ticket for Indiana, a small market. So they're going to move Clark out of there, move her to LA, and get a bigger, better TV contract next year. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen.
This is not a rumor. This is not a fan theory cooked up on a Reddit thread at midnight. This is a real story with real names attached. And the reason it is getting louder by the day is because if you have been paying attention to what the WNBA has been putting Caitlin Clark through this season, the idea of her packing her bags for Los Angeles is starting to sound less like a wild fantasy and more like the only logical conclusion to a story that keeps getting worse.
On the street is Caitlin Clark is going to be traded soon. And if you follow the rabbit hole, it all sounds real. It all sounds on purpose, and it all makes sense. Caitlin Clark to LA Sparks.
So, let's go through all of it. Let's talk about what the Sparks are doing. Let's talk about what Stephanie White's coaching decisions look like from the outside. Let's talk about what this league has been allowing to happen to its most important player game after game. And let's talk about why, for the first time, people are seriously asking whether Indiana deserves to keep Caitlin Clark at all.
Caitlin goes to LA. What do you guys think? I mean, she'd be back with what? Cameron Brink? Kelsey Plum is over there. Kate Martin is there right now. They have some good players. I just don't know if Caitlin Clark is an LA girl. I mean, she's definitely a Midwest, person. Will she fit in LA? I mean, with Cam and that team, I don't know. Maybe the spotlight.
Lynne Roberts is not some first-year coach who stumbled into a big market job. She spent 9 seasons at Utah, built the program into a consistent NCAA tournament presence, and became one of the most respected builders in women's basketball. The Sparks hired her to do something people had stopped expecting from that franchise: compete. And she is not here to be patient about it. Since arriving in Los Angeles, Roberts has been aggressive on every front. She signed Kate Martin, a player who built genuine chemistry with Clark at Iowa, converting Martin's development contract into a full standard WNBA deal in early July. She brought in Kiana Williams. She has been publicly transparent about her ambitions, and she has made it obvious the Sparks are building towards something real. Roberts wants a star, not just a good player, a star, the kind of star who changes the economic math of your franchise overnight. And when you're the head coach of the Los Angeles Sparks and you are looking at the current Caitlin Clark situation, what you see is an opportunity that does not come along very often.
Oh man, if you haven't heard, Kate Money Martin, man, just got signed to a standard contract with the LA Sparks, man. And this was much deserved and needed because the WNBA needs Kate Martin on a team. And they had to make room to do this, so thank you to Nia Latson. But we talking about Kate Martin. We already know from Iowa with the face of the league, the baby goat, Caitlin Clark. Also, one of the people that have the top selling basketball jerseys in the WNBA and has had it since she came in. But she also has the skill to be on a team. So this is good. I'm pretty sure a lot of people is happy about this.
Here's what makes this push more than just wishful thinking. The Sparks did not sign Kate Martin by accident. Martin was Clark's teammate at Iowa. She was there for every piece of that historic run. She is someone Clark is comfortable with, someone who understands how she plays before a single practice even happens. You do not go out and sign Kate Martin in the middle of the WNBA season and then deny you have one eye on Clark's situation. That is a deliberate organizational signal. You are building a roster Clark could step into and immediately feel at home. You are removing friction. You are putting pieces on the board before the real negotiation even begins. Roberts has not stood up in a press conference and announced, "We are coming for Caitlin Clark." That is not how this works. But the moves tell the story that the words are not saying yet. And anyone watching this franchise closely knows exactly what the project looks like.
I'm pissed. After tonight's game, I'm pissed. And I'm clearly not alone in my sentiments, but the league has a serious officiating issue. And the fact that the way that they treat their generational talent is truly disgusting. The calls tonight were insane. Or the no calls tonight were insane.
Before you can understand why the Sparks want her so badly, you have to understand what Caitlin Clark is doing right now in 2026. She is averaging a career-high 21.2 points per game across 17 appearances this season. She has earned another All-Star selection, her third in 3 years. The Fever came into the stretch with an 11-8 record. At 24 years old, in just her third professional season, she is performing at a level that puts her in a conversation very few guards in the entire history of women's basketball have ever entered. She is the most watched player in the history of women's professional basketball. The Fever Liberty game on June 6 averaged 2.557 million viewers on CBS, the most watched WNBA game on any network this entire season, and the second most watched women's basketball game on any network since the year 2000. Let's start with the Portland Fire game on May 31st. Stephanie White pulled Clark in the first quarter, and the Fever went on to lose 184, a 16-point blowout. Then, during a second quarter timeout, the cameras caught Clark and White in what could only be described as a heated exchange. Clark was visibly upset. White was making her point, and the moment went viral immediately because the entire country had a front row seat to a head coach and her franchise player not being on the same page. When reporters asked White about the early substitution, her explanation did not fully land. She cited Aaliyah Boston's minutes restriction and said Clark's removal was part of the plan. But pulling your best player, your most important offensive weapon, in the first quarter of a game that then turned into a 16-point blowout loss is the kind of decision that demands a cleaner answer than that. Clark and White both came out afterward and said there was no issue. They called it competitive. They called it coaching. But here's the thing. When you and your coach are having a visible argument on national television during a timeout, telling people there is no issue does not make the moment disappear. The video exists. People watched it. And the question it raised has not gone away. Is Stephanie White actually putting Caitlin Clark in the best position to succeed?
Have a generational talent and a WNBA superstar who had 2 cheap shots right there that weren't called. And I just say, again, absolutely unacceptable.
Steph, do you think that the league needs to look into how Caitlin Clark is defended or how she's officiated going forward?
I mean, we spent all offseason looking at officiating. All offseason. And I still say the one thing that we keep asking for is consistency. She is not called the same way everybody else is called.
And this is not a one-game story. Clark had been listed as probable for 13 separate games this season because of a recurring back concern before the latest incident. 13 games. A 24-year-old who should be in the most physically capable years of her career, and the team has been navigating injury concerns for over half the season. Then came the June 24 Fever Mercury game. Alyssa Thomas put her closed fist directly into Clark's throat during a scramble for a loose ball. Thomas stood up, looked down at her, and stepped over her. The referees saw none of it. The game kept moving. White called the missed calls egregious after game. She said Clark absorbed 2 uncalled cheap shots in a single professional basketball game, and the referee still found a reason to review Clark for possibly hitting a defender rather than addressing what was done to her. The league eventually gave Thomas a 1-game suspension, 1 game for a closed-fist blow to the throat, and Clark sat out the next 2 games with back injury aggravated in that same match.
It was intense though. Like, I feel like, yes, just like you said about basketball, like, it was a flagrant 2, it was a flagrant 2. Like, that should have never been done. Like, you don't put your hand in someone's throat and like damn near kick them on the floor. Like, it's a basketball game. Like, what are we doing? Like, and so obviously that was the right call. And as for death threats, like, it's so.
I've been on the other side of those, Aaliyah. Like,
Yeah.
I've been on the side of some players' rough play. So if there's anybody that could probably speak about this and being roughed up and being like disrespected and whatever, it's probably me. But in terms of taking it farther than that, it's just like, what are we doing?
Here is where the story gets serious in a way that goes beyond basketball drama. Sirat Sohi at The Ringer plainly said that the league is stacked against Clark, that players resent her, referees will not protect her, and league leadership has been reluctant to acknowledge what she described as obvious mistreatment. That is not a fan on Twitter. That is a credentialed journalist who covers the WNBA for one of the most respected sports publications in the country, the group of 11 Republican lawmakers, led by U.S. Representative August Pfluger, Texas, sent a letter to WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert on July 7th demanding accountability for what they called multiple attacks against Clark. They describe her as the face of your league. They pointed to hip-checking, eye-poking, and the throat incident as examples of unnecessary physical hostility and violence. They floated potential DOJ involvement if the conduct rises to the level of civil rights violations and gave Engelbert until July 24th to respond. That is Congress writing to the WNBA commissioner about one player and whether she is being protected. Think about what has to happen before a story reaches that level.
I thought you're young, wonderful basketball player.
The best.
Caitlin, I thought that she was treated rather rough, if you want to know the truth. That was a much different kind of an event. That was a pretty bad event.
Thanks.
But in this case, he didn't do anything
And
wrong.
do you know how bad the WNBA has to be doing when our president has to stop his busy schedule to talk about the WNBA? What? Good thing it was Caitlin, because if it wasn't for Caitlin, he would have had no reason to speak about the WNBA. That's just fact.
And then, right in the middle of all of this, someone went ahead and said the quiet part out loud. A piece published by Yahoo Sports in late June carried the argument that the WNBA would be better off without Caitlin Clark. The reasoning went like this. Clark has already done her job. She helped get players charter planes. She drove the new CBA. She pushed ratings up. And now, the argument goes, the league should stand on its own without leaning on one player's popularity. That is one of the wildest takes in the history of sports analysis. The idea that a league is better off without its most watched, highest drawing player because she has already been useful enough.
Being sabotaged by this trash-ass head coach, this trash-ass organization. Trade her already. Just trade her. This is garbage, bro. I'm sick of watching this stuff. She was sabotaged today. The most she played was 3 minutes and 10 seconds at one time. That is sabotage. It's malpractice. There was no point in her even playing today if this is the plan. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it, man.